Welcome to Conscious Not Crazy. This is Kori, and I'll be your host. And I am so excited. This has been a long time coming, and I'm just super excited to share this content and to get to know you. And I am just looking forward to the journey ahead. So, if you are a parent, if you are thinking of becoming a parent, this podcast is for you. Really, it could be helpful to anyone, but I am going to focus a lot on parenting and what we learn about ourselves when we become a parent, because you learn a lot. So if you are a struggling parent, if you are feeling like I am just failing, I'm in power struggles all the time with my kids, I'm having a hard time implementing consequences, or maybe you just don't know what consequences you should implement. There's so much information too as parents. There's so much information thrown at us, and there's so many different opinions on how to deal with behavior, what to do, what not to do, that it's almost too much. And that's how this podcast came to be. I was a struggling parent. I'm also an educator and are a former educator. I've taught kids age 2 all the way through high school. And I was just seeking information, but so many different messages. When my oldest, who's 15 now, I have a 13 and 15-year-old. When he was 4, actually, it was probably 2 or 3, we sought out the help of a psychologist, even. And he was just a normal kid. Now that I know what I know, he's just a normal kid. He's just strong willed. He has his opinions. These are all amazing qualities. But as parents, we come into this and we have no guidebook. We get instruction manuals with everything. I mean, you buy a cell phone, you get an instruction manual. You buy a new garage door opener, you get an instruction manual. Probably the most important thing we get in life is our kids, and there's no manual. And there is a lot of different opinions and ideas out there. And so, how this podcast came to be is I was a struggling parent, and in constant power struggles with my child. And he was 3 at the time, almost 4. And I was venting to another mom. I was at the gym, leaving the child center. That was my break for the day, my 2-hour break. And yes, it's okay to appreciate those breaks to all the moms, those little ones out there, or dads with the little ones out there. Also, this podcast isn't just for moms, it's for dads too. We're going to talk about all the different angles of parenting, all the different parenting challenges that will apply to both of you. So if you're a mom, if you're a dad, if you're a parent, if you're thinking about becoming a parent, if you're a parent of a toddler, if you're a parent of a teenager, we're going to talk about it all. So tune in. I'm going to kind of go through like how this came to be, what my goals are, and then I just look forward to building a community and getting to know each and every one of you. So I was I was venting to this mom, leaving the gym. I was at Lifetime. I live in Leawood, Kansas. I was at the Overland Park Lifetime. And I was leaving talking about my son's behavior. And she told me to go check out this school. And of course, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm not from Kansas, was not born and raised here. And so she was telling me about the school. She's like, it's in Martin City, Missouri. And I was like, oh, Missouri, that's really far. Well, it turns out it's right down the street. So I called the school. I mean, I was grasping at straws, y'all. I could not, I just didn't, I had tried everything. I'd read every book. Well, I don't read books. I do audiobooks. Too ADD for that. But I had really felt like I'd exhausted everything. So I called the school. I talked to the owner, Brianne Bongiovanni, who has since become a dear friend. You guys will meet her. She will be on this podcast. And she is probably, without her, this wouldn't exist. I wouldn't be the person I am today without her. So I have so much gratitude for her vision and the school she created. So I talked to Brie on the phone, And I set up a time to go tour the school. And what this mom had told me is that the school uses a different approach to discipline, and it was called conscious discipline. And I thought, that's interesting. She was telling me a little about it. So anyway, I'm like, no problem. Called the school, set up a tour, met with Bree. The tour was amazing. The school is amazing. If you have not checked out, if you have little kids and you have not checked out Bambini Creativity in Martin City, you must go check it out. It is amazing. So yes, so I toured the school. The environment's amazing. The culture is amazing. And we enrolled, at the time we enrolled our kids. And my daughter was 2 and my son was 4. And this was in the summer, so we enrolled them for the following school year. And so they started at the school, and the first day, my son, of course, was throwing a fit that I was leaving him at this new school, these strange people, what's going on? And I remember looking at Bree. I'm standing in the doorway of the school, and I go, tell me what to do. Like, I will do whatever you tell me to do because I am at a loss here. I don't know what the right thing to do. And you have that mom guilt. Your kid's screaming. You're leaving them at this place where they don't know the people. And that's hard. That is really hard. And so she said, just go. And what I learned from that years later is the more we stay, we're actually doing more harm to our kids. We're making that separation that much more difficult. It's more difficult for us, but it's more difficult for them. So we're the adults, so we just need to let go. And I did exactly that. And my kids, my son was at the school for 7 years. It was a preschool when we found it, and it rolled into an elementary school. I actually, because as I said, I have an education background. I actually ended up teaching at the school for 6 years. So I went from teaching high school years ago to teaching in the preschool. Hadn't done that before. That was an amazing experience. I tell you what, you learn a lot about human behavior when you work with 2-year-olds. So I started in the 2 and 3-year-old class. It's called Piccolo. And then we rolled with those kids for 3 years. And it was the most amazing experience. And I learned so much. The only regret I ever had is that it didn't exist, or, the school we founded, it was the second year it was open. But I just, as I learned more about child development and human behavior, I had so much guilt on how we handled our son's behavior when he was young. But here's the deal. Focusing on that guilt and what could have, should have been done doesn't serve you, doesn't serve me. I love the quote or the saying, you can't drive a car looking in the rearview mirror. And too often we get so stuck. We get so stuck on what we did wrong, what we should have done differently. It doesn't serve you. Nothing good happens. Nothing changes. So forget it. Move on. The only goal that I have today is to be better than yesterday. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to screw up. I'm going to do the wrong thing. I may know all the right things to do. I don't have this podcast. I haven't taught Conscious Not Crazy, which I'll get to that, for 10 years because I'm the perfect parent. I do it because I screw up every day, but I have a lot of grace for myself. I do know a better way, and I do the best I can, which is what any parent out there is trying to do. So you're doing the best you can right now, but my goal and my hope is to give you some tools and give you some strategies so you don't have to feel the guilt. So you know a better way. You understand the why behind your child's behavior. You know how to give them appropriate consequences. You know how to follow through. You learn to model the behavior we want. Too often we're screaming and yelling, get in the car. Why are you doing that? We're judging behavior. And what we're doing, how we're behaving, is modeling the behavior we don't even want. So that is my goal. My goal is to coach you and to support you and to teach you to have a little grace for yourself and to give you those strategies and tools. And with this podcast, we're going to go through the brain and how the human brain works, and why when your child wants that candy in the candy aisle or that toy when you're checking out at Target and you say no, stop, and don't, they flip their lid and lose their marbles and are laying on the floor, kicking and screaming. And I do know, guys, my kids are not perfect. There's no perfect kid. There's no perfect parent. There's no perfect person. We are all human and flawed. And that's what makes us beautiful. But my goal is to give you some tools for those moments, to keep your kids going from the I want, teaching you just little changes and tweaks in what you say to them so you don't have to experience that tantrum in the middle of the checkout aisle. Or maybe your teenager makes a poor choice. How do we approach that? How do we talk about that? How do we normalize uncomfortable conversations? And I'm personally going through that and experiencing that right now. And it's been amazing. I'm grateful for all that I've learned to navigate even this more difficult stage. I mean, every stage has its challenges. These challenges in the teen years, though, are a little scarier, because we're talking about things like our kids are exploring sexuality, they're exploring maybe drinking or drugs, all of those things. So how do we navigate that? How do we open conversations? So if any of these things resonate with you, that's what we're going to talk about here. That's why I'm here to support, or what my goal is to be here to support you. So Conscious Not Crazy came to be because I found the school. I started to dive into this conscious discipline approach. And what I do isn't conscious discipline specifically, but it has a lot of the components of it. But I actually have read hundreds of books over about a 10-year period. And I actually read a lot of business books because these concepts aren't about our kids. They're just about human behavior and development. So they apply. I'm able to take all of the things I've learned to help me become a better parent and apply them in a job setting. Apply them if there's currently we're dealing with I live in a townhome. I just moved, and we have 6 homes connected, and we share a sewer line. Well, sewer line backup, there's been some drama. And it helps me navigate things like that. I don't take stuff personal, which is huge, guys. This is a big one. If you can overcome taking things personal, it is a game changer. So that is something we're going to work on. Another thing is I don't get excited by stuff. I'm like, again, it doesn't serve me to let outside things control my emotion. Does not serve me. Who's in charge of us? Who's in charge of our emotion? We are. We can't control the world, and too many people out there spend so much energy, and our kids included. But again, we're modeling that. We're trying to control all the outside factors, and then when they don't go our way, we're blaming those things out for our behavior. We don't want that. We don't want that for our kids either. So if any of these things sound like struggles or things you'd like some help with, that is what we're going to do here. So I'm going to do these podcasts. My goal is to do them weekly. And then I'm going to build into some live events. So I'm in the process right now, and this is to be determined, but there is going to be an event fairly soon. So you can come to the event in person if you're local. And if you're not local and you want to take a trip, come on. So, and these events will be, I'm going to do them a couple ways. I'm going to do some morning ones geared towards moms. I'm going to do some evening ones because I would love if both parents can come. I think that's very beneficial. But the way I see this is come have some dinner. If you want to have a drink if that's your thing. And I will share. We will have open discussions. You can ask questions. You can share specific scenarios and we'll walk through it. And we will, I will have slides and I will present to you, but it'll be a fun night, kind of like a date night. And hopefully you can take away some great content and information, some tools. And I'll break up those live in-person events into different topics. So I'll kind of have a different focus at each one throughout the year. So I am super pumped. I have taught a class at the school my kids went to. So when I started diving into conscious discipline, I mean, guys, I listened to CDs. I listen to books, all the things. And then I got to work in the school. So I worked in the school for 6 years, and I still go to the school and help with the professional development and training of the staff. On behavior management for the classroom. So so if you're a teacher, this could also be helpful. You want your classroom life to be easier, you'll benefit from this too. So what happened was I was like, there's got to be other parents experiencing what I'm experiencing. So I formed a parent like support group, and it started as us just talking and sharing. And then as I became more informed, I created a formal class, and I did this class once a month throughout the school year, and I've done it for 10 years now. And it's been amazing. This is the first year I haven't done it because I've been busy building a website, getting a podcast ready, and working on a live event. And I moved. So anyway, and I'm a mom, guys, we're doing all these things, and we're still, parenting never stops. Like, you just need it to stop sometimes so you can get your shit done. Well, it doesn't work like that. You got to get your shit done and still be a parent. So that's a challenge. But I am so pumped and so excited because this is just I feel like this is what I'm called to do, because I want people to know they are not alone. Being a parent sometimes can feel very lonely. I'm actually recently going through a divorce, so that's a whole nother aspect of parenting to navigate. And it's just, it's so interesting. Everything in life happens for a reason, happens the way it's supposed to. And I always learn something, even in those hard moments. Even when I'm like, oh, this really sucks. When I get to the other side, I'm like, wow, I really learned a lot experiencing that. And again, that's what we want to tell our kids. We want to coach them through the difficult moments, and we want to give them the tools. This is my theory. And this is why I created Conscious Not Crazy. So Conscious Not Crazy, the name Bree came over to my house. My kids are toddlers. Okay. So I formed the parent group. I decided I'm going to make this a class. I'm going to teach it. I'm going to break it into different topics. We're going to focus on the brain science. We're going to focus on positive choices. We're going to focus on consequences. We're going to focus on being assertive as a parent. We're going to focus on mindset, all the different things. So she comes over to my house. We're sitting on my sofa, and we're like, okay, let's come up with a name. And I thought, well, somehow it came into my mind, I want to feel conscious and present and not crazy. And you guys, I felt crazy. So Conscious Not Crazy came to be in my family room, gosh, 10 or maybe it was 11 years ago, but 10 or 11 years ago, because my daughter was at Bambini for 9 years because it went to 5th grade at the time. It's the only reason we moved him. It didn't go beyond 5th grade. And my son was there 7 years because he was 4. He was older. She was the first student to go from age 2 all the way through 5th grade there. Best investment, best thing I've ever done for my kids. But anyway, Bree comes over. We're sitting on my sofa, and I'll never forget it. And we come up with the name. So Conscious Not Crazy by Kori. And then we came up with the logo, and I'm like, I want it to be peaceful. So you guys will see my logo. So we came up with the logo. Actually, here's my logo right here. There it is. So we came up with the logo, and then I built slides and taught a class, you guys. And it's been amazing. It's been a journey. I was scared when I first started doing it. I mean, gosh, public speaking is most people's biggest fear. I'm not afraid of it anymore. Do I get a little nervous sometimes? Yeah, but it's all good. It's fleeting. But really, because I care so much about the information I'm sharing and it means so much to me, it doesn't scare me anymore. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey. So it came to be, I've done the classes ever since up until this year when I've decided to kind of take it a different direction. And I'm so looking forward to this podcast and diving into these things with you guys, because yeah, it doesn't ever get easy. It just doesn't. Here's my theory on what's happened in society. I feel like kids today, I see it when I go to restaurants, I see it when I'm placing an order at Chick-fil-A, is that kids lack a lot of problem-solving skills, coping skills. We all know that the statistics say that depression and anxiety, these kids are all on medication. And I'm not saying kids shouldn't be on medication. I just think there is a societal issue. And my opinion is, this is my theory. I call it the pendulum theory. So I believe we were raised, and I say we, I don't know how, I know we have all different ages probably tuning in, but I'm almost 50. This is a big year for me. I'm going to be 50 this year. So I was a 70s baby. So we were raised in a generation where children should be seen and not heard. Do as I say, not as I do. Don't cry. Don't be mad. Don't be sad. Why'd you do that? Judgment, shame, and punishment. So that's how we were raised. And now those adults with all these suppressed emotions, because you were told not to feel, not to cry, your feelings weren't acknowledged, are raising children. And now, because of the pain of our childhood, whether you're conscious of it or not, we're trying to, it's the helicopter parenting. We're trying to protect our kids from all pain. And what happens is the downside to that is now kids have no coping skills. And they've had no practice dealing with failure. And then we wonder, so we don't ever let them fail. We take them their homework, we take them their lunch. Of course, there's no spanking or any of those things. And I'm not saying that's the way to do it. And I will tell you, we've done it all. We did it all until I knew there was a better way. So I don't judge anything. This is a judgment-free zone. This is not a platform where I judge anything anyone's done. It's a platform to support and help you grow and find a better way. And everyone's way is not different. No two kids are the same. No two parents are the same. So it's not that there's this specific way. It's just about mindset. It's about being present. It's about being logical. And it's about pausing and just thinking of things differently. But now we have these adults with these suppressed emotions, raising kids and protecting them from everything, saving them from everything. And then we wonder why we send them off to college or send them off in the real world and they come back home to live with you again, or they can't get a job, or they can't handle any kind of failure. It's like you would think the earth is falling apart. There's probably a better expression than that, but that's all I could come up with in that moment. But anyway, they just have no coping skills. Or you go to the restaurant and you order some food. This is my pet peeve. And you ask them to change something and they freeze because you're asking them to do something outside of the norm. And part of this I do blame on the education system too, because that's a whole nother topic that we'll talk about, and what you can do to combat that as a parent. And I was fortunate because my kids were at a small private school, and I know not everyone can do that. I feel blessed that my kids got to go there. But kids are just programmed not on how to think, they're programmed what to think. And that's a really unfortunate thing. But again, we'll talk about that. I'll have a whole podcast on education. We'll bring Bree on. It'll be awesome because it is something parents need to be aware of, because there's things you can do at home to help combat what's going on in the schools. And I'm not saying schools are bad. I'm just saying they're a little antiquated based on, they're just not, it depends upon the school. It depends upon the principal, all the things. There's a lot of variables. There's good schools out there, but as a whole, we're not teaching kids how to think. We're teaching them what to think. So they lack a lot of problem solving skills. But where we need to go. So we were raised over here. I don't remember which hand I used, but over here. And children should be seen and not heard. Do as I say, not as I do. Shame, punishment, fear, all those things. To no pain, no punishment, no consequences. I'm going to save you. I don't want you to feel bad. It's okay. Or your feelings hurt. All those things. Okay. Everybody gets a trophy. Not good. In the middle is where we need to go. And what the middle looks like accountability, consequences that fit behavior. The middle looks like, yeah, you're sad, you're mad, and that's okay, but you can't hit, you can't call me a name, you can't just leave, you can't throw your toy. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be sad. But that behavior is not how we deal with that. But what you can do is this. When I'm feeling mad, when I'm feeling frustrated, I'm making up new words here. Frustrated, I breathe. I take a minute and leave the room to calm down. I turn on some music. Everybody has different ways they cope with emotions. So we need to coach our kids. And the way we coach, the best way to coach our kids, how do you think? It's model the behavior you want. Model the behavior you expect from your child. Because you know what? And this is 1,000% true. You can say things to your kids all day long. You can tell them to do this, not to do that. Don't get on your cell phone. And guys, I'm guilty of it too. I'm guilty of it too, on it too much. And it's hard because I use it for work, but do I go down the rabbit hole? Absolutely. But if I'm telling my kid not to be on their phone too much, what are they watching me when I'm on my phone too much? It's not, and again, like I said, I'm not perfect at this. That's not why I do this. But it's more important is how we model the management of our emotions, how we handle frustration. How do we handle failure? How do we handle fear? So even though this Conscious Not Crazy podcast is about parenting, in order to be the best parent for your child, you have to kind of dive in and maybe do some work. And you have to take a look at why you react the way you do, why you're triggered by the things you're triggered about or by, what triggers you. And then the other thing we're going to talk about, I'll have a whole show on this, is the parenting aspect when you have two parents, two different upbringings coming together, and we have different triggers. We have different parenting styles. And nobody talks about that. So it's normal that they're different, but how do we get on the same page? How do we meet in the middle? Or how do we find common ground? Because really your kids need that consistency. And this is whether you're married or not married. So if you're still living and married with your spouse, this is super important, but it's also super important if you're not, and maybe even more so because you don't want kids manipulating a situation, whether they realize they're doing it or not. But anyway, so I am super excited, but this is what Conscious Not Crazy is. It's about being conscious, being in the present moment, and modeling the behavior you want from your kids. But to do all of these things, you're going to have to take a little dive into what motivates you, what your own fears are. And one thing we'll talk about, and I love this because I see things now, and that whole not taking things personal, and positive intent's another big one we're going to talk about. I love positive intent. And guys, these things don't happen overnight. This is repetitive practice. You don't gain a new skill by hearing it once. You're not going to perfect it and just go do it. It's no different than if you're weight training. You're not going to go to the gym, lift weights once and come out with big muscles, or you're not going to burn a whole bunch of fat that first time you go. Like you change your diet for a day, you're not going to lose 10 pounds. It takes practice, it takes discipline, and it takes effort. It's not easy. And it takes a willingness to look in the mirror and to see your past childhood traumas. And when I say trauma, I'm not talking about abuse trauma. We all have trauma. It's just how we respond. It's like, again, those triggers from things like I was a people pleaser. People pleasing is one of my biggest struggles. So that means I'm doing things because I'm trying to please the adults around me. And I grew up like that. And it was probably, I got attention for being good or for listening and again, I'm not shaming my parents for however they parented me. My parents, just like you as parents, just like I am as a parent, are doing the best we know how. No parents out there like, I want to be a shitty parent. No parents thinking that. So we're all doing the best we know how. So how do we understand, though, how we can do it better? By understanding ourselves. So thanks so much for tuning in. I look forward to diving in deeper, but that's just a little glimpse into what Conscious Not Crazy will be about and what it's going to look like. And I just look forward to getting to know you. I look forward to hearing from you guys and your questions. And yeah, so thanks so much for tuning in.